Hi, I'm Dr. Cass Spencer-Smith at Private Practice Ninja, and today we're going to be talking about how to get referrers to remember you. We've been talking a lot about referrals recently, and if you're a physio or osteo, it makes sense, doesn't it, to go and sit in an orthopaedic surgeon's clinic or spend time with a sports doctor. But what should you actually do when you're in the clinic, and how do you go about making sure that those visits are worthwhile and that those people will remember you when they're thinking about referring a patient? Here are my top tips. Get your mindset right about referrers. Sometimes physios and osteos share with me that they're a little bit worried about kind of wasting the consultant's time when they're sitting in clinic. It's a busy clinic and they think they're going to interrupt the flow of that. I would say sitting on the other side of the fence is actually quite nice to have company in clinic, so don't worry too much about it. But there's a couple of things you can do to help us along. Firstly, it's about not spending too much time in clinic. There's a tendency for people to spend all morning or all afternoon, and I'm going to recommend to you that instead you try an hour and a half to 2 hours tops, for a couple of reasons. One is that we feel that the pace is quick, nothing's slowed down, we don't resent you being there, and most importantly, it gives you a great excuse to go back next time. I'm also going to suggest that you actually begin by saying to the consultant, I know you've got to do stuff during this clinic, you've got to get your dictaphone out, your secretary might ring you, I might have to have a chat with him or her. Don't worry about me, I'm going to be here, but you just do what you need to do. And then everyone's comfortable with the idea that conversations occasionally will be broken. The other thing that physios and osteos tell me is that they're sometimes a bit worried that they don't have many patients to refer to a surgeon in particular. And to this I would say, that's entirely right. I don't want you to have lots of patients that are surgery ready because there's something wrong in your practice then, isn't there, if all patients end up going to surgery. So instead of worrying about this reciprocity situation, what you can say to yourself and say to the consultant is, look, we all know that most of the people we see don't end up with surgery, but the reality is that sometimes they do. You're going to be fantastic and we're going to make you look great because you'll have amazing physio or osteo afterwards for your patients. So you do the good surgery and we make sure the rehab's taken care of. What if you've met with a new consultant and you really want to form a good referral relationship? How do you get over the awkwardness of not having many patients to send to them? Again, I would literally be open about this and say, look, we've met, we see you're fantastic, and it might seem we've gone a bit quiet on you because we don't really have many patients that are ready for surgery, but don't you worry, the very next patient that comes along that is surgically appropriate, we will be sending them to you. You will be our go-to person. Plus, next time somebody asks us, who's a great knee surgeon in the bank area of London, we'll be saying your name. A word of caution for consultant surgeons here. It's not a tit-for-tat thing when it comes to referrals. I've heard some surgeons speak to physios and osteos in a very transactional way. You send me 5 people, I'll send you 1 person, etc. And it feels really awkward to physios and osteos, and it might give you the reputation of being a bit knife happy, so don't do it. The other mindset thing to bear in mind if you're a physio or osteo is to think about the balance between you and the consultant in terms of relationship. Have you ever had that experience when you go to clinic and the consultant tries to teach you something even though you've been qualified for 30 years? It's a bit awkward, isn't it? So a way you can get around this is to get ahead of the game and say, when I come to clinic, I really want to be able to show you how it is that I look after patients so that when they're going through their post-op care, you know exactly what I'm going to be doing with them and it's all going to be fabulous. That way, Prof gets to know that you really know your stuff and won't treat you like a first-year medical student. A further big tip is to actively ask for the kind of referrals that you want. By this I mean the kind of patients and the kind of clinical problems that you love to see and treat. I've been banging on about niches for ages in private practice, but the way to do it in clinic is to say to the consultant, you know that ACL patient that you occasionally have who's not doing well post-op, even though their surgery went well, they've lost confidence, you should send those patients to me because they do really, really well with me. It's super important to follow up and follow up and follow up once you've been to see the consultant. See if you can ping them a text or an email that very day and send them some further sort of correspondence in a week or so, maybe something interesting you read online or some research article. And I'm going to encourage you to keep doing that even if it feels a bit unnatural. The next thing I'm going to say to you is that it takes, I think, on average 3 times for people like me to remember people like you. We might have had a fantastic time together in clinic, but it kind of fades into the background the very next day. And so I've literally sat down and counted the number of physios and osteos who came to my clinic to work out how long it takes for me to get to know them. And it seems to be about 3 times. So maybe take a leaf out of their book, come and visit people like myself 3 times. We'll remember you better. On the first occasion, it can be a get to know you. The second occasion, you can sort of try out a little bit of challenging conversation, see where you feel that they fit in with your practice. And by the third consultation, you'll feel completely happy to actually put your hands on the patient, move them around in clinic and show them your fab stuff. And finally, it's really important to follow up with the medsecs. This is an interesting one, this. You may or may not be aware, but when it comes to consultant orthopaedic surgeons, a lot of the time, the secretary seems to choose who the physio is going to be. A bit crazy that, isn't it? So how do you do this? Well, if you visited the consultant, I would literally get in touch, or preferably, if it's still possible, go and visit the medsec. Now, sometimes that's not always possible because they may be working virtually, but make a point of phoning up, having a chat with him, saying, "Oh, wasn't he nice?" And then saying to the secretary, "Do you know what, if Mr. X or Mrs. Y ever has these kinds of patients, make sure that you think of me because they'll do fabulously. I love seeing and treating them." And here's the key part, be very specific about how you want them to liaise with you. So sometimes letters go amiss in the post. If you say to them, "Just phone me or just email me with a referral, I'll get back to the patient straight away." Medsecs love that, and they know exactly who's doing what, and they know that next time a patient phones up saying, "I've still not started my physio," they can sort it. I'm Dr. Cass Spencer-Smith at Private Practice Ninja. If you need some help in sorting out referral ideas or how to market your practice, get in touch.